Thank you, everybody, for your effort. Thank you for the effort to be here on time. Now we're really going to start. I'm really excited to present the last panel for the Congress. Be careful, I used to be a teacher, so I don't want to use those tools of making everybody silent. But I really want to thank everybody here. The delegates of this Congress have really warmed my heart. I've talked to many of you, and it's just a very, very special event. We are now getting to the last panel of the Congress, which would appear on the screen in a second. Column. And Chaim Bereshit Zabner. I've never pronounced this. Chaim, you need to tell me how to pronounce this Polish name. Yes? Okay, Zabner. Is Lubna around? Okay. Chaim Bereshit Zabner. Applause. Ilan Pape. Ramzi Baroud. I am missing someone.
Lubna.
Yes, I want to see her. She's on the way. Here she is. That's a great entrance. Lubna Spaitan. They're going to have a discussion. I'm just sitting here to be on the time, as I always do. Please. The panel's name is Decolonize, De-Zionize, and Liberate. What are our next steps? Where do we stand? And I think Chaim would be the person to open.
Thanks. I didn't know I was opening. Right. We have very short time to speak about it, so I'm not going to talk about the two-state solution and bury it, because it's dead already. So we don't need to talk about it. I just want to say, never did we talk about a two-state solution in South Africa. We didn't say, oh, let's have a black state and a white state. Who would go for that? We didn't in Northern Ireland say, let's have a Catholic state and a Protestant state. So let's just stop even discussing this shit. Because even Netanyahu and every other Israeli politician is not voting for it. They made it impossible with the project of the settlement. And our reason not to talk about it is it's a way of preserving Zionism, and not any of us here is interested in preserving Zionism. So what can happen? The solution has to come from the Palestinians. First point. The Palestinians have already worked on that solution in 1947. In 1947, the UN discussed two resolutions. The resolution to have a unitary state in Palestine as a Palestinian state, and please look at Virginia Tilley's book about this solution. It's an excellent book, and she maps out why that solution was rejected by the West. And when I say the West, I also include the Soviet Union that voted with the West for reasons we have no time to talk about here. So there were two proposals to divide Palestine like some loot between Zionism and the Palestinians, and the division will be done by the empires, and they will decide how much each side gets, or not to divide. And actually, as a Marxist, I always think that never to divide, always to unite. So the division was really wrong to begin with, but the way it was done was even worse. The Zionist project included a third of the people of Palestine at the time. The colonizers were a third of the population. The Palestinians were 2/3 of the people of Palestine. All in all, together, there were 2 million people there. So what do you do when you have a third and 2/3? You give the third 2/3 of the country, and vice versa, yeah? You give the smallest group the largest part, and the largest group who actually own the country, the smallest part. That wasn't even enough for Zionism, and the day after the resolution was passed, the partition resolution was passed in 1947, started the war with the Zionist forces grabbing as much as they could. Ilan told us in his book on the Nakba that by the time that by the 14th of May, when the war started supposedly, 2/3 of the Palestinians were already out of their homes. So nothing started on the 14th of May. It started on the 1st of December, 1947, the same weekend that the UN, in its ultimate wisdom, decided to partition Palestine. So there is the original sin. And of course, even there, it's not the beginning of the original sin, because Britain has already given Zionism the whole of Palestine, in a sense, yeah? They had the freedom to grab and buy and all kind of steal parts of Palestine, and they did. So I want to say that the resolution that failed to make the vote, the resolution for one democratic state in the whole of Palestine, was supported by the Palestinians and rejected by the Zionists. So when we go to solutions, I go to the solution chosen by the Palestinians in 1947, and then again, a version of it was chosen by the PLO when it was formed in the 60s. So that's the first principle. Go ask the Palestinians what they want. Now, one has to say that the Palestinians are and were the most generous people in history. Let's not just pass on this and think that it is normal or that it's obvious. It's not normal and it's not obvious that the population under colonial control is saying to the colonizers, you know what, just stay with us. We're nice people. We don't have anything against you. You will be citizens like us in the state of Palestine, in the whole of Palestine. This is not obvious, yeah? And I want to give you a couple of examples. In 1954, the people of Algeria, who already were fighting to liberate themselves from France, started a campaign under the newly formed FLN, the Front National, and what they wanted is basically a one democratic Algerian state in the whole of Algeria. Surprise, surprise. They didn't say to the Pieds Noirs, that were a very small part of Algeria, bugger off, we don't want you here. They said to them, remain with us in a state of Algeria. We are not part of France. We are not South France, which is what it was called then. We are Algeria. we are Algerians, we are of the Arab and Muslim world, and that's what we want to be. And you are welcome in this society. Most intellectuals and public figures in the Pied Noir actually supported this. People like Camus, for example. And actually, there was a chance of actually a united Algeria with French colonialists. Then the French government totally rejected this, sent the worst parts of the army to Algeria to defend what they called southern France. Eventually, they killed 1.5 million Algerians. After that massacre, that genocide, that crime, things looked very different, right? You don't want to live with your genociders. Who would blame you? Who would blame Palestinians as well? So what happens before a genocide and what happens after a genocide is very different. Now, I'm now going to talk about the before the genocide, because after the genocide, I already made the point. Before the genocide, the whole number of us, the four sitting here and many others, mainly Palestinians, came up with the One Democratic State campaign, or the One Democratic Initiative, state initiative, the two groups that are supporting the one state in Palestine. Ilan and myself were involved in writing a model constitution for Palestine, not because we thought it will be taken up, but because we wanted to do a political exercise of checking what we need to think about when we come to write the proper constitution. And together with us were Nur Masalha and Rada Karmi, etc. And 130 intellectuals, mainly Palestinians, but a third were Israeli anti-Zionist, signed that constitution. That constitution, I think, still stands as a very, very good model. But that was in 2011. That was not only before the genocide, it was even before the Arab Spring. And what we wanted, the main drafters were Palestinian, is a one democratic state, which is basically a secular state. In other words, that religions don't have rights of political rights as such. In other words, everyone is an individual in that state. That is kind of radical in the Middle East. Yeah, it still is radical. Now, what happened since is that we had two groups formed after that, and they differ very little. And I've been working very hard to bring them together, and I feel I'm a bit closer, or we are a bit closer to coming together, because if you want one state, let's have one group, yeah? How can we have one state if there are three groups, which were before we started our work? So I want to come to a conclusion now. The genocide in Gaza has meant what the genocide in Algeria has meant. And there is no way of getting away from it. Every time I speak a lot with Rada Karmi, we are old friends, and we do a double act in different universities, in different countries indeed. And every time we spoke before an audience that included young Palestinians, and the first time it happened, it was quite shocking, but then we got used to it, and we got to understand it. They said to us, we know that the one state is the only democratic, just, and practical solution. We know that a second genocide of the colon is not a solution to the first genocide in Gaza. We know all that. And we think that in the long run, this is the solution. At the moment, now, as we stand, our problems are not to have a one democratic state. Our problems are to survive the colonial attack on us. And as you know, the real numbers in Gaza are closer to be between 650,000 to 750,000 dead. Just look at the latest research in a number of publications. So now there are not 2.3 million people in Gaza. No. A lot of them are underground, and a lot of them are under rubble. So now, despite the fact that I and us and every Palestinian know that we need a one state in Palestine, we cannot actually at the moment even talk about it without first resolving the fact that Zionism is in existence, Zionism is genociding, Zionism is taking over Palestine. The people of Gaza that were living in the smallest part that any, if you calculate the density of Gaza habitation, it was the densest place on Earth, on this planet. Now they are living in less than 40% of the area of Gaza before the 7th of October. And every week that is becoming smaller, and every week there are more rats and less people. So I want to end by saying we have the solution. The solution is Palestinian. It existed for 80 years. We knew it, and the West has made it impossible. The West has supported the genocide. The West has supported stealing Palestine from its people and giving it to the chaos engine of the West, which is Zionist Israel. Now we need to end Zionism. This is my priority. This is, I think, the priority that the Palestinians are directing us to. End Zionism, out with them. Now, the people that will stay there, and just to go back to Algeria, because I want to finish. In Algeria, after the genocide, the Algerians, who were not less generous than the Palestinians, and again, don't take it for granted, the Algerians said to the Pieds Noirs that killed 1.5 million Algerians, they said to them, our country is going to be Algerian. It is going to have Algerians with their culture. We invite you to stay. As long as you want to be citizens of Algeria, give up your French citizenship, your French identity, and stay with us, and let us build the post-colonial Algeria. The Pieds Noirs refused. They left Algeria more or less to the last person, and Algeria became a monoculture. I'm not supporting monoculture. I bet, a lot of the Algerians were sad to see those people go, but a lot of them were quite happy that the genociders are gone. So project this on Palestine, please. So the people in the future, we don't have a date, we cannot have a date. Those Israeli Jews, like say Ilan and myself, that are supporting a one state, will be able to be there according to what the Palestinians are saying to us as citizens of Palestine. I have no problem with this. Most Israelis will do what the Pieds Noirs did. I want you to be aware of that, and this is where I want to leave my presentation. Palestine should be liberated. Palestine should be decolonized. Palestine should be de-Zionized. Anyone that did anything towards the genocide should face a court. should pay what the Genocide Convention demands. The Genocide Convention is called the Convention for the Prevention and Punishment of Genocide. We will not do a Nuremberg. We will do a Genocide Convention future in Palestine, and as opposed to South Africa, there will be punishment for those who killed the people of Gaza and the West Bank. Thank you.
Thank you, Chaim. I would love to hear Ilan.
Thank you, Chaim. Tough act to follow, and I'm sure there are tougher acts to follow after me. I want to focus on 3 points which have a lot to do with my own biography, and we are all, I think, connected to our own identity, even when we are talking about abstract or strategic or even activist issues. We cannot disconnect it from our biography, our personality, and our own individual hopes for the future. I'm very lucky, I feel very fortunate that my own individual aspiration as someone who was born in Haifa and lived most of his life there are not different, as far as I can understand it, from the aspiration and vision of most of my Palestinian friends. And that makes me feel very comfortable that I'm not, there's no contradiction there in imagining the future in that respect. And
Ilan, a bit closer.
A bit closer, okay. Imagining that future. All my adult life, I lived in a society where my imagination about the future were exactly the opposite of the imagination of most of the people who were my family, my friends, my peers, my colleagues in the university, my society at large. And in many respects, living for a long period, that society made it much easier to live when your own views and the views around you seem to be on the same wavelengths. So that definitely is something that we are doing here today as well, I think, in that respect. That part of the identity of being so many years involved in the pro-Palestinian solidarity movement leads me to think that the slogans that we are using here in this session, you know, decolonize, liberate, de-Zionize, have to be translated into action. And I think one of the things we wanted to do in this second conference, which we didn't do in the first Congress in Vienna, is to translate slogans into action. But it's not enough to say, I want to de-Zionize, I want to decolonize, I want to liberate. Now, of course, the liberation movement is Palestinian liberation movement, but the ability to decolonize and to de-Zionize is not only something the liberation movement can do, but also the solidarity movement with the liberation movement can do. In every such struggle for decolonization that we had in history, the solidarity movement played also a very important role in changing a colonialist situation into a decolonized situation. And I think in this particular forum that we are, the question is, what is the Jewish action for liberation? We know what the Palestine action is. We have a very good concrete example in Britain. When people say Palestine action now, they're not thinking about an abstract idea. They're thinking about a very particular group that did very particular things. And there's something about our presence and our decision, and as I said in my opening remark, until this very moment, I'm not entirely sure we need a particular Jewish pro-Palestinian solidarity movement, but the more I'm thinking about it, I'm for it. There needs to be a discussion of what is not an anti-Zionist Jewish action, but what is a Jewish action for the decolonization and the de-Zionization of Palestine, because we need to own back our Judaism, despite the fact that we all have different interpretations. I'm sure, what does it mean to be Jewish and what is Judaism? We are here, I think, because the kind of Judaism we all believe in has been taken hostage in order to continue the colonization, the destruction of Palestine. And the question is, what is our Jewish action? In order also to find out if there is really a particular Jewish action that is different from the Palestine action, whether it's the Palestine action in general or it's the specific brave Palestine action people who are now facing courts in Britain. I have some ideas, I don't have time to develop them, but I do think that we should focus between this conference and the next one, not to wait to the third conference. We need to use the year to think what is a Jewish action in Dublin, what is a Jewish action in London, in Berlin, in all these places, with a particular stress not on anti-Zionist Judaism, but I think about Jewish action, and find a way of doing it. The second point, again, a second point that comes from my own biography and identity is more to do with my academic work. And I remember talking to friends in Gaza, and I think Ramzi also mentioned it to me in a private conversation we had, that there is understandably, there's very little wish in Gaza even to talk about the one-state solution. And you hear a very natural response. You want me to talk about how to live together with these people in the future? I'm not going to have, when we try to organize a webinar in the One Democratic State, those friends of us in Gaza said, not today, not today. And this is something that really is in the back of my mind, and I put it as a caveat for what I'm going to say now. I do think, despite my full understanding of that sentiment that nobody can question, it's still important, I think, especially for Palestinians who are not in Gaza and are not in the West Bank, maybe Palestinians who live relatively in more comfort inside Israel, definitely Palestinians who live outside Palestine, is to recognize the difference between the short-term developments which we are trying to influence, but it seems we are not that powerful right now to deal with. And that is the continued ethnic cleansing in the West Bank, the continued genocide in Gaza, and if we are thinking beyond the Palestinians, the destruction of South Lebanon, South Syria, and the danger to Jordan from the current Israeli ideological elite. We never, nonetheless, and I think you can see it better from the outside than from the inside, should understand that decolonization is two things. One is a movement that, by the force of a struggle, turns a colonial reality to a decolonized reality. But decolonization is sometimes, in history, a process of disintegration from within the colonialist power. And that disintegration, for which maybe for years Palestinian struggle has contributed, maybe the inner contradiction of what Zionism has contributed without even Palestinian struggle, because it is a project that is not working not only because it imposes itself on Palestine, because it also imposes itself on Judaism. And therefore, the disintegration as a process of decolonization has already started. Israel is decolonized every day that we are talking about. There is a rot at the foundation of the State of Israel. There are extensive cracks in the foundation of the State of Israel. We should be aware of it, because if you understand that these processes are taking place, you may know also better where to focus your energy, how to relate your strategy to those kind of processes of disintegration. Now people say to me, but you know, Israel is so powerful. How can you say this? It's bombing Beirut, it's bombing Tehran, people buy weapons from Israel, it has a high-tech industry and so on. Yes, but this is the upper floors of the building. The foundation, and you can see it when you are there or you can see it from the outside. It is a society, a Jewish society that implodes from within, that finds it very difficult to create a joint identity and actually is already involved in a cold civil war. It is a military that is exhausted to its extreme. There is fears, it fears the moment, which is not near, unfortunately, but it fears the moment that its Arab neighbors would even threaten a conventional war, let alone engage in a conventional war. It is a military that relies on reserve soldiers that are spending hundreds of days a year in the army without attending to their jobs, their businesses, to their families. It is a military that is losing its manpower because quite a few Israelis in very large numbers have left Israel in one-way ticket since October 2023. And that army depends on economy of war. And the economy of war is not sustainable in the long run. If we add to this the international isolation, despite the fact that it doesn't include political elites and governments, but nonetheless includes in unprecedented way huge sections of the civil society. It includes even younger Jewish generation, and unfortunately we have a very small representation of the Jewish community that matters more than any other community, the American Jewish community, where the numbers of young Jews who would have populated a convention hall in show of solidarity of Palestine would be 5 times more than you are here. This is something that by itself is not a process that decolonizes a place, but it's part of discrete processes that together can form, when they fuse together, a transformative moment of change on the ground. And I think it's important to realize also in terms of hope, that we are in a process that has the potential of bringing an end to Zionism, colonialism, and bringing forward Palestinian liberation and liberation of Palestine. Let me end by the last facet of my own identity. Since I was born in Haifa, and I love Haifa, and in every minute from the moment I was aware of the history of Palestine and the Palestinians, every moment that I became active for Palestine, I had this terrible kind of contradiction between how much I love that country, how much I love the city, how much I love my life there, and how much this love is denied to my Palestinian friends and brothers and sisters. And it's no wonder that part of my, and that's very eccentric, but it's not that eccentric, I think, for many people who are here necessarily, and it shouldn't really be part, I think, of the Palestinian agenda right now. Part of my deliberation when I think about decolonization, de-Zionization, and liberation is what would be the fate of the 8 million Jews who live today in Israel. And Chaim already mentioned some of, I would say, the assumptions that I fully agree with regard to that community. I'm not sure always whether the Algerian model is that applicable to the case of Israel. There's always a problem with historical models if you apply them to the present. They don't always work as we think. But what is important is, one, of course, that whatever the Israeli Jews are thinking about the future in a decolonized, liberated, post-apartheid Palestine. Whether they like the idea, whether they're afraid of the idea, their position is not a precondition for liberation and decolonization. That is very clear to all of us. Namely, their fears, as they demand from us, are not factored, and rightly so, are not calculated in the need to decolonize and de-Zionize Palestine. Having said that, we're talking about 8 million people, not 8 people. And it is, I think, quite interesting to, at a certain time in future, not right now, to add it to the questions that the Palestinian National Liberation Movement will ask itself. What do they offer to the millions of Jews who live there today? What do they think about the state? The state is also, you know, an organic place. You build something in 80 years, even if it's built on ethnic cleansing and genocide and so on. These are questions for the Palestinian Liberation Movement. Obviously, these are not the questions that are at the top of the agenda now, but there are questions. And because some of us were born there, some of us would still like to live there, I think that we also can contribute to these conversations. And I will end by a short section I have in my last book,
Just
Israel on the Brink.
A bit closer again.
Israel on the Brink. I have there an imagined conversation between myself at the age of 95 in liberated Palestine, liberated Haifa, with a grandchild who says to me, "What happened to all the Jews who lived in our street? Why are they not here?" And I say to him, they all left because they felt they cannot live in a state which is not an apartheid state. And I did all I could to persuade them that it's much better to live in a non-apartheid state, but I failed. And I think this is something for me that defines so clearly that on the one hand, decolonization, liberation, and de-Zionization is first and foremost the end of the dehumanization of Palestinians, the end of the brutality that not even one African, I think, even suffered that in South Africa, what Palestinians are going through now. That's obvious. This is the first layer of it. But there has to be also a layer, I think, of reconstruction, of rebuilding. And that for me, and with this I would end, is going back to the Palestine I try to reconstruct in my historical books. The Palestine where Muslim, Christian, and Jews genuinely coexisted together and built a country that had the future to be a state that would have been an incredible place that would radiate progress, humanity, not only to its own citizens, but to the region as a whole. And I think that if we combine together both the need to end the brutality, but dream of something that already had been there, we will disrupt the Zionist narrative, and we might be able also to galvanize people around the idea that what the basic Palestinian impulse was always, let us have a normal life, which you have denied us from 1882 until today. Normal life is not idealized life, we don't romanticize our life, but this is the kind of life we would like to have, like so many other people have, and take it for granted. So, decolonize Palestine, de-Zionize it, liberate it, but more than anything else, make it a normal human place, something the Zionist project robbed the Palestinians of for the last 120 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ilan. Lubna, would you mind if I go to you and then Ramzi would be afterwards?
Now you've broken the order. No,
We can keep
that's
the
fine.
order.
We don't like the order.
I just didn't want to keep the woman to. Although maybe the woman should have the last word.
So should I go?
No, but if you're
I like-
prepared, otherwise I won't intervene. It's fine for
I'm
me.
happy.
You guys decide.
So I can go first. Up to you.
No, any way you like.
Oh.
Ramzi seems very prepared.
Yeah, you are.
I am.
Go for
I am so
Go
prepared.
ahead.
You have no idea how prepared I am.
Let me just put it closer. And then
Thank you. Okay, maybe I can do something about these two mics.
Yes, for sure. But actually, you don't really
Yeah,
need
if I don't need them, then I'd rather do without them. Is that all right? Okay, perfect. Perfect, thank you. Thank you very much. It's indeed difficult to follow such two wonderful intellectuals and historians that I have known, and I'm not trying to kind of suggest that I am younger or anything, but I have known when I was much younger, been reading their books and following everything that they have produced. Before I start, and I decided to put this in the form of in a written form as a statement. Number one, to kind of hold myself accountable to it. Maybe I'll change my mind this evening. But because I feel like this is too important for me to kind of allow my own thoughts to kind of wander. And it's very important for Palestinians, especially those from Gaza, but all Palestinians, of course, to tell you what do we think our priorities are at the moment. Because this is really, at this point, it's a question of priorities. The other thing I would like to also add, just a very little caveat here, is that the issue is not just, well, you know, the genocide just happened and the wound is still fresh and it's ongoing. Maybe we should just need to give the Palestinians a little bit of a break. Then Gaza can catch up later on and join the conversation about the solution. I think the history of solutionism in Palestine has been going on for 100 years. I mean, they have been talking about it for a very, very long time. And poor Palestinians and various leaderships, sometimes foolish, sometimes well-intentioned, sometimes pushed into it, engaged in these conversations for a very long time. You know, they've been going from London to Paris to New York, presenting the Palestinian Arab case to the world and so forth and so on. Nothing good ever came out of it. After all of these years of discussion, the Nakba happened. And then more talks about the Roger plans and not the Roger plans. Then the Naksa happened, the war of 1967. We keep talking, and then we keep being pushed out. We keep talking, then we keep losing. Intellectuals theorize somewhere else, and we end up being ethnically cleansed from our own land, ultimately leading to the current genocide. So this is not a new phenomenon, and we just need to give the Palestinians a break because, you know, they are starving in Gaza. No, this is the story of the Palestinian struggle against Zionism, and we are not going to play that game anymore. I believe that the concepts on our agenda, decolonization, a single democratic state, and the mechanisms of restorative justice are not just abstract theories. They are the vital intellectual foundation that have guided our collective work and our shared struggle for decades. But as we gather to discuss these essential visions for the future, we have to look directly at a deeply profound dilemma. We find ourselves in a historic moment where we are asked to map out the legal and political architecture of a future state. At the exact same moment that the physical, living reality of Palestine, its people, its neighborhoods, its villages, towns, and refugee camps, and its very history is facing an unprecedented systematic genocide. There is a quite painful irony in designing the zoning laws of a house while the foundations are actively being pulled apart, and while our families are being buried beneath the rubble of these houses. When we focus our primary intellectual energy on these polished, long-term political models, during an ongoing genocide, we risk falling into a well-intentioned trap. It is a natural human response to project ourselves into a peaceful tomorrow. Because looking directly at the sheer scale of the slaughter today, and I mean today, about 12 Palestinians were killed in Gaza in the last 24 hours, is so difficult. But as researchers, as historians, as writers, our first duty must be to ground our visions in immediate material reality. A vision for the future, no matter how beautifully crafted, cannot carry real weight if it is not actively shared, heard, felt, and practiced by the people on the ground in Palestine itself. When we look closely at the history of our struggle, the historical data tells us a very clear story. For generations, various Palestinian leaderships and political representations attempted to engage in good faith with the mechanisms of global diplomacy. They engaged with the British colonialism, then with early Zionist structures, the good Zionists, the cultural Zionists of the day, later with successive Israeli governments, and continuously with the United States and the broader West. Every single one of these structural engagements, whether political or intellectual, left our people in a worse position on the ground. The historical record shows that neither the Israeli state nor its Western backers were ever genuine or genuinely searching for an equitable solution on a mutual compromise. Instead, these diplomatic processes were used as tools to manage the occupation. And that's exactly what the Palestinian Authority is. I'm slightly disappointed that we did not talk enough about that, because that's what the Palestinian Authority, it is a policeman for the Israeli occupation. They have done their very best. They have done their very best to ensure that there is no viable form of resistance. And I'm not just talking about armed resistance. Any kind of resistance in the West Bank is possible. And Kudus, they have done such a splendid job. So please, do not engage with them. Do not talk to them. Do not validate them. Do not include them on your side as if they are on our side, because they are not, and they have never been. Instead, these diplomatic processes were used as tools to manage the occupation, buy time, and systematically enforce pre-designed colonial ideas that had nothing to do with Palestinian freedom. When elements within our political elites and the diaspora pursued these paths in isolation, detached from the popular will of the greater mass of our people, it led directly to the structural failure of the Oslo paradigm. Oslo did not achieve a single tenet of actual liberation. Instead, it created an insulated, localized subculture of wealth, a tiny class of politicians who at times served essentially as the administrators of the occupation, building an insulated economic reality while the greater mass of Palestinians faced ongoing devastation, genocide, and starvation. Therefore, true visions for liberation cannot be top-down models anymore, designed by politicians or even intellectuals or academics meeting in distant rooms. A legitimate vision must be a grassroots reality embraced by the people, by the popular will. If you listen closely to the language of the people on the land, they do not speak in the abstract jargon of Western political science. They speak of tahrir, liberation. They speak of haqq al-awda, the right of return. They speak of muqawama, resistance, the right to resist their own erasure as well. if we want our discourse to be truly well-researched and impactful, we must align our theories with their practice, rather than expecting them to conform to our academic language. This brings us directly to the concept of de-Zionization, a theme my colleagues on this panel understand deeply. To address this rigorously, we have to look past superficial political divisions. In mainstream political analysis, vast amounts of ink are spilled analyzing the internal fracture of Israeli society. Analysts carefully parse the differences between the right wing, the liberal left wing, the religious Zionism, the secular nationalism, the cultural Zionist. Ilan told us today that there are Maori Zionists now. And of course, we have Native American Zionists in America. I mean, that's how far they went. In fact, I've met a Buddhist Zionist. I don't know how that works exactly. They treat these internal debates as if they hold the key to the future. But from a rigorous historical perspective, we must recognize that while these distinctions matter immensely to Israeli society internally, they have never mattered to the Palestinians living under the weight of the occupation. To a family in a refugee camp, to a mother enduring aerial bombardment, or to a prisoner held without trial in modern-day concentration camps, the political affiliations of the pilot or the bureaucrat is completely and entirely irrelevant. Historically, the liberal left and the nationalist right within the Zionist frameworks have implemented the exact same material outcomes on the land: systemic displacement, settlement expansion, and the denial of basic human rights. The primary and yielding obstacle to peace in the region is therefore Zionism itself. It is a foundational ideology of racism, exclusion, racial supremacy, and genocide that cannot be modernized or reformed. It cannot simply be managed or adjusted. It must be completely dismantled as a system of power. To approach this analytically, we must draw a clear distinction between defeating Zionism as a structure of power and the broader historical process of de-Zionization. As an ideology, Zionism will likely linger in the world for a long time, just as white supremacy, white nationalism, and other exclusionary, chauvinistic concepts continue to exist globally long after losing state power. And I will correct myself, it's still part of state power. I know some of you are thinking, what is this guy talking about? It's very much still part of the state power, but I mean at least not overtly serving the role of white supremacy. But defeating Zionism means stripping it completely of its institutional ability to oppress the Palestinians, the Lebanese, the Syrians, the Iranians, anyone in the Middle East, anyone in the world. This requires a comprehensive dismantling across multiple distinct fronts, intellectually, and I think that is mostly our job here. We must strip the ideology of its moral and academic cover, exposing its 19th century colonial roots until it's understood globally as an indefensible form of systemic racism and discrimination, financially and politically, and that's where BDS comes in. We must systematically sever the global pipelines of corporate funding, state aid, diplomatic immunity, and that insulate it from international law. And materially, the physical infrastructure of apartheid and military domination must be permanently dismantled so it can no longer physically enforce its will upon a captive population. And, you know, I'm just going to add this without committing to this particular statement, the number of Israeli Merkava tanks that have been destroyed in Gaza during the first 2 years of genocide is more than any number of Israeli military hardware destroyed by all Arab armies since 1948. However, a serious warning must be stated here. Zionism is, at its core, deeply intertwined with global capitalism and capitalist networks, military industry, and geopolitical resource management. Because it operates within a capitalist framework, it possesses a highly adaptive capacity. As the moral legitimacy and global reputation of the Israeli state face unprecedented historic damage due to the genocide in Gaza, the system will inevitably try to redefine itself to survive. And we know that they are working very hard on this. You're reading Israeli newspapers, that's their conversation, not ours. Of course, they will never correct themselves by saying, maybe it wasn't a good idea to starve and rape and kill Palestinians en masse. Maybe the issue is just a PR problem, so we just need to add more money to the issue to fix it. But ultimately, the Israelis themselves and the Israeli government is realizing that they are in deep, deep trouble. Zionism will attempt to present a softer, more liberal face, or offer cosmetic administrative reform to preserve its underlying structural privileges. We must remain profoundly vigilant against this mutation of this hideous creature. We cannot content ourselves with a rebranded version of the old status quo. We must maintain our focus on total structural dissolution of Zionism. Once the structural power of Zionism is completely dismantled, the concepts on our agenda finally move from abstract theories into immediate, achievable realities. When the foundational power imbalance of master and slave is removed, the exact technicalities of the future of political arrangements actually become secondary. Whether the people choose a single unitary state, a binational federation, or another democratic model, the system will naturally succeed once it is built on a foundation of absolute equality. We must remind the world that historical coexistence is not an unresearched utopian dream. It is the deep, verified history of Palestine and her people. For centuries before the advent of modern Western colonialism and the arrival of Zionism, Jews, Christians, and Muslims lived, traded, and built a shared society on that very land without the need for apartheid walls, separate legal systems, or segregated highways. It is entirely possible again. But the only vehicle that can historically transport us back to that state of human coexistence is the total liberation of Palestine. Palestinians have pursued this course for generations because they understand that without unyielding resistance to this exclusionary system, the menace will continue to expand. And as you know, they are already expanding. In some areas, they are finding fierce resistance. Unfortunately, in other areas, they're not. As we see unfolding across the region today, a colonial project built on perpetual expansion cannot be contained. Its violence will always grow and spill over, threatening the stability and shared humanity of the Middle East, in fact, the entire world. Let us conclude by realigning our understanding of this struggle. The liberation of Palestine is not a localized, isolated conflict over a border, a flag, or a specific population in the Middle East. It is a foundational issue for global justice. By working to dismantle this outdated, brutal, 19th century colonial structure, we are working to free all of humanity from a system that is still permitted in our modern world to carry out genocide, violate international law with impunity, and destroy human lives without any regards to anyone aside of the Zionist government itself. Let us leave this panel today not searching for diplomatic compromises or academic blueprints, but recommitted to deeper alignment with the greater mass of the Palestinian people in their actual living struggle. Because when Palestine is finally free, it will mean the world itself has finally taken a monumental step forward towards universal human dignity. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. That's the spirit. You see, Lubma, maybe it was a good idea before. Okay. Now you have to keep up somehow.
You said everything. I'm going home. Yallah. I'll go back to Palestine now.
But we are really looking forward to hearing from you. And please present yourself also.
Do you want me to present myself as defined by the Zionists? I mean, that might give a good idea. I'm your Palestinian anti-Semitic Hamas terrorist, by their definition. The thing is now, the sad thing is unless you've been labeled these things, we're not doing enough. And what's even more sad is they've literally hijacked and destroyed the very things that they claim to be opposing, which includes anti-Semitism. The conflations created, as you know, designed not to protect Jews from discrimination for being Jewish, but to protect a racist, pariah, genocidal, apartheid state from criticism, which it rightfully deserves. Now, I'm wondering if this section, if you want me to go into the motion, or are we going to get to that?
You use your time now.
I'll go into that, okay.
Yeah.
There's a lot to talk about, so I'm just sort of programming my mind to...
Think of 10 minutes.
Yeah, okay, I have no concept of time, help me out.
I will help you.
It's 54 now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, okay, I'll begin by my journey. Come from my Palestinian father, who, like many Palestinians now, cannot return. And I'm the result, a child of the diaspora, like many, who would love nothing more than to go back home. And I have my British mother, who we were raised to look at and call for equal rights. I mean, I was always in trouble at school for doing the usual, fighting for the underdog. I think it just comes from being Palestinian. We are no stranger to injustice, right? So it's like, oh, there she is again. She's in another fight. I mean, I hate fighting. But the point is, what choice do we have if we don't defend ourselves? As the eldest of so many siblings, I don't want them to grow up in a world where they're going to continuously be attacked. I don't want to see any of our children being attacked, but the fact is, unless you stand up to these bullies, it's going to keep continuing, and it sets a precedent for us all, which is now a prime example of what Israel is to the world. This is beyond us as Palestinians. This is a test of compliancy. How compliant will the world remain in the face of this injustice? Because if this can be permitted now to happen against us, quite simply, who will it be next? And we have seen as our systems, our schools, our local authorities, our hospitals, now even in Britain, occupied by the Israel lobby. And those of us who protest against it are either arrested, those brave comrades who are taking direct action to stop a genocidal war machine are branded as terrorists now and facing imprisonment for the heroic acts that you would want everyone to rise up and do in the face of this. If it were your child, you would want action. We've done the marches, we've done the petitions, We as Palestinians have fled for decades. I've been brought up witnessing time and time again as so many of our own family before this current genocide massacred. Stories, I don't think there's a single Palestinian in the world who hasn't experienced this. And there's nothing worse, especially now, than to stand on the sidelines witnessing something that you've felt so helpless, that you're like a bystander watching now a live stream erasure of your people, your family, your loved ones. You know the stories of before now, where my father's cousin was crushed to death by a tank trying to stop them from taking his family home. The torture that my father himself endured. His perforated ear from the torture, the smashed teeth, the bullet wounds. This is like endless, and there's no PTSD, because as we know, it's never post. This is just continual trauma. And until this occupation and this genocide ends, there will never be a recovery. And to see that, and to see everyone in my family who has been forced from our homelands die, like my grandmother, of a broken heart, only longing to ever return. And you standing there wishing that you could do something, anything, to make this possible. And you come from this as we witness what we hope won't be the end, but rather a beginning of the end to this injustice. And we sit here as children of the diaspora, holding the torch for the next generations, for those who fought before us so that we could exist. Now we must fight. We have a duty to fight for all of those that are left, and all of those that, inshallah, are to come. And we stand, and we will stand steadfast and defiant against this, against the whatever allegations they want to make, whatever threats are made. The fact of the matter is there is nothing worse they can do than what's already being done to our people. And so here we've been on a very long journey. We've come forward, you know, bringing forward a local campaign group, from challenging investments in Israel to looking at the dock workers. I then joined the union, became the equality officer, just to bring back what we've already had long-standing policies in support of BDS, but as many of these motions, they're not implemented. And then you see all the holes in the problem, the anti-trade union legislation. Then we get to the Terrorism Act, which should also be completely abolished. And all the things that went wrong. And here I ended up in the Green Party and drafted, in short. It was a long journey getting there, and it wasn't something that I thought, you know, in London we have Your Party. I don't know. Are any of you familiar with Your Party? Are many of you? Okay. So, like many, I myself had signed up to Your Party, and then of course, I mean, it hasn't quite formed and gotten off the ground yet, and we look at the situation and think, okay, we have a lot of work to do, and we have to prepare and begin this somewhere. And Green Party being the first to at least acknowledge that Israel is an apartheid state committing genocide was a good foundation to build upon. And we saw, okay, so the point, and this is where the motion began, was if this party recognizes that Israel is an apartheid state committing genocide, where does it then stand? Does it take a one-state, two-state position? Because if you acknowledge that this is the case, are you going to continue endorsing a racist state that conducts a genocide that is apartheid? And you're looking at, again, this is in the same racist establishments that began this mess, imposing it upon us with the Balfour Declaration. And when I asked, okay, what is the situation? They said, oh, it's down to the Palestinians to decide. And of course, naturally, you're like, well, what Palestinian wants to live with the boot of the oppressor on their throat, right? I mean, it was a bit of a no-brainer. Okay, let's look at the policy. But unfortunately, it actually stated it's down to the Israelis and Palestinians to decide. So now we have to negotiate the terms of our oppression or liberation with our oppressors. And this right there is one of the problems that's been overlooked for so long and imposed like, okay, we don't even have a right to decide what's already been imposed upon us for so long. And this is a matter for the Palestinians to now speak. And sadly, our voices have been denied and deprived for so long. And it's reached that breaking point where you looked at the situation and you say, it is literally an all or nothing, now or never situation. Before it's too late, and before there is nothing left, we have to at least confront this wretched narrative that has deprived us and denied us of our even basic human rights. And we know that Israel cannot exist. It exists on the subjugation of Palestinians. It does not know equal rights. And so we drafted this motion as Palestinians. We came together. What is it that we want? Let's now speak. And with this, we formulated a motion with support and input from our Jewish allies who, like us, want a single Palestinian state. They want liberation. They want equal rights. We all want equal rights. I mean, it's very basic. The demands of the motion, there's 8 basic demands, but it's 1, to declare the party anti-Zionist, to reject the normalization of the subjugation of Palestinians, including by definitions, I'm sure many of you here are acquainted with the IHRA and JDA definitions of anti-Semitism and their unfortunate and ill effects. We reject. Well done. We want to get rid of it everywhere. Well done to you. And the third demand, we call for accountability, for reparations. We call for a single democratic Palestinian state in all of it, with Jerusalem as its capital, all of historic Palestine, and the right of return for Palestinians and their descendants. But when we say equal rights, it does not mean, of course, like was raised, that the Palestinians must then be forced to live next to their rapists, their genocidaires, the same people that have slaughtered our families. I mean, let's be just here. This is where accountability, reparations, and rehabilitation is vital. Justice. And there can't be any healing without justice first, right? This is where we all find liberation. And the motion goes on to support full BDS and embargoes applied like with South Africa apartheid. And when we say for this is really vital, because we're seeing campaigns, varied campaigns all over the place that are limited. It's like partial divestments. I mean, the UN prescribed list is like 5% of the investment, so what continues then is the maintenance of the status quo, the maintenance of apartheid. Until we get those demands clear and concise, and we're talking about full liberation, they need total economic isolation. Economic isolation, diplomatic isolation, like the fall. It has to go. For us all to exist, we cannot have the safety of one by compromising the safety of others. Our safety is coupled. If one of us is with, there will be consequences, ramification, resistance. Resistance is there because of the occupation, because of the occupier. And most importantly, this motion continues to reaffirm our right to self-determination, our right to resist by all available means, as by international law. And the final 2 are about the release of all prisoners of conscience, including Marwan Barghouti and our other fighters, and this is vital. And the deprescription of Palestine action, and to support the demands of the hunger strikers, and the release of all prisoners who have taken direct action for Palestine. This is the matter that concerns us all, and we cannot claim, no party or anyone could claim, oh, we represent equal rights or democracy when they still continue to deny Palestinians their rights. And we've seen that Israel is not limiting itself to just Palestine, as if that's not bad enough for nearly 100 years of this hell, but a greater threat to world peace. I mean, you're seeing them spread now in Lebanon, Syria, Iran. It's endless. And here in our systems, even on our streets, we have an increase now, and we're looking and facing, fascism on our streets too. I mean, these are 2 of the same coin. And until we challenge one, we're never going to find safety. We're never going to find peace. And so we brought this motion forward to the party to make a statement, to return and bring it back to the same racist arenas that began this mess. It began here, and we want to end it here. And we're saying, we didn't expect it. We didn't know what to expect, to be honest. I mean, we are in establishments, right? We thought, okay, expect the worst. But the point is, we have to begin that. We have to at least be able to say it and confront it if we're ever to do anything with it. And this is what has started to happen. It's about addressing and changing that narrative. But people, I mean, it's the first time I've experienced this, maybe you too, brother, but we're in a time where now more people are understanding the history of Palestine, or even knowing where Palestine is. I mean, I grew up in areas where I was a Palestinian. You know, they call you something completely different, and you're just like, now I think the world knows where Palestine, we're on the map. And it actually received a record-breaking number of co-proposers, which sent a big message. This tide is turning. And we are here in these, you know, not that we've had much hope in political establishments who have been there to do nothing other than deprive us of our rights, but returning to them with this, it sends a message. And those that have stood up and support us, and all of those of us who are here in this room, I mean, this is something to be proud of. This is an achievement. This is hope for all of us, for a greater future. And we want this. This motion is not just about a motion, like a piece of paper that we're going to submit for another statement. This is historical. This is something that now sets a precedent. This is a movement that we want to expand globally for the world to acknowledge, right? Here is, it's like when you diagnose, you know, an illness. You can't treat it without understanding its root cause, the root of it. And here we've identified the root, and with it provided a solution. One that is just, one that is steeped in everything that is supposed to be about equality. It's about international law, the Geneva Conventions. And be under no illusion, we knew we were going to be attacked, of course, by none other than the Zionists, of course. It was anticipated, and we had worked extremely thoroughly to ensure that we've covered several different angles. We have to be, literally, it's like playing a game of chess with them, because you know you're going to be under attack. And we had a legal team, we had sign-off from a high-ranking KC prepared. And the first ones, of course, was UK Lawyers for Israel. I'm sure most of you are acquainted with them here. That led to further attacks, you know, accusations, the smears, the legacy media, of course. It's what they did under, everyone familiar with Jeremy Corbyn? Yeah. The same. Basically, it was like Labour 2.0 and repeat. But the one important thing that we've learned here is what not to do. And that's not to capitulate, not to cower. We will not apologize for being Palestinian, for calling for equal rights. And all the mistakes that were made prior to this point with the other parties, we want to make an example. If you don't learn and you repeat the same mistakes, you're going to have the same outcome. And we cannot afford, especially at this stage in time, for that to take place. So we send a message out to them, to the leadership in all parties, that it is about us, the people. You have to be reminded of how you came into your positions and how you can be removed from them. And you need to show the people that you have the integrity worthy of our vote. And we, the people, are going to come into this party. We are going to take that vote. We are going to pass this motion. If it doesn't pass in the Greens, which I'm quite confident, unless there's more filibustering, which there inevitably will be, but if it's not in the Green Party today, it will be another party tomorrow. It is not limited there. It is the beginning. It is a seed, but it's certainly not an end. And we are so proud to share this journey with you, and I welcome you to come and join us, to put this in your own parties. I don't care which one, just put it there, in your unions. Create your own groups, set it on fire. This is a movement. This is hopefully the beginning of the end and the beginning of our liberation as Palestinians, as human beings. Shukran.
Thank you so much. We are about to finish, and also the entire Congress. So we're slipping right into the last session, which is, it has a slide, but if it appears, we can see the name. We were thinking I would like to have the same order, that each of you would speak for 2 minutes, or I would say 1 minute, and then it's going to be 2. Feel free to tell our dear delegates here what they should take with them home, in your opinion, from after these 3 days, or any other last word that is really important for you to message to us.
Right, here goes 1 minute, which will be 2. I was born in a refugee camp in Rome after the Second World War. My parents were stateless, and so was I. So I had no problem understanding the Palestinian situation. So that's the first thing that happened to me, is that I was a Palestinian. I lived with Palestinians in Jabalia, in Jaffa, and all the children spoke Hebrew and spoke Arabic, and none of us had any idea that the other children are worse. So I want to leave you a very simple message. For 800 years, Jews, Christians, and Muslims lived in Al-Andalus in what is called La Convivencia. La Convivencia was life together that helped not just the Christians, the Jews, and the Muslims in Al-Andalus. It actually created what we call the Renaissance. Without La Convivencia, there would be no Renaissance. There would not be human rights. There would not be modernity. There would not be the art, the culture, the literature that we know today. And we would not even have the plays of the Greek tragic playwrights, because they came out of Spain after being burned by Christian Europe. If the Muslims would not preserve them, we wouldn't have them today. We wouldn't have Plato, and we wouldn't have most of European culture. So Muslim, Arabs, Jews, and Christians together created Europe, modern Europe, and European traditions. So I want to say, let us tell the world, let us tell this awful place called Europe that has brought so much despair, destruction, death, racism, capitalism, imperialism, colonialism, add your own. Yeah? Let us tell the Europeans that we need convivencia, not just in Palestine, but in Europe also, against the Islamophobia that is now ruling our life. That is what we want. And we want it also because we had it in Palestine. We had it in Palestine for 2,000 years. So let no one tell you that we can't live together, not just peacefully, but creatively, dynamically, to have a totally new development in Palestine. And that's what my friends on the panel told you. It's possible, it's the best result, and we shall achieve it by liberating Palestine and liberating Jews from Zionism.
Thank you. Ilan.
Well, I think that very well the session itself concluded. Excellent, a great Congress. And first I want to say thank you for the people who toiled behind it. It's not easy to arrange such a Congress. I think they deserve our appreciation for their hard work. Secondly, I'm sure that both Ramzi and Lubna realize that they have here comrades who have already shown, but will show it also in the future, total devotion to bring an end to the Zionist regime, to the decolonization of Palestine, to the liberation of Palestine, and they would work for it as they have worked before in even more intensive and committed way if it is all possible. And thirdly, I think that we have to spread the word to many of our friends and comrades who are still caving in when they are accused of being anti-Semitic or self-hating Jew for supporting the Palestinians, that they should have self-respect and understand that their positions are anti-colonialist, humanists, Democrat, and that they should be proud of their position, and they should not need in any way to justify it, but actually put the onus on the others and ask them why are they still subscribing to criminal ideas and supporting brutal and apartheid state of Israel. Thank you.
I think it's incredible, especially for those who been here last year, not in Dublin, but in Vienna, how quickly this organization, this group of people moved from a state of definitions and who we are and what we want to do into action. And I think it's exciting to anticipate the third conference of where we're gonna be in that scale. Especially recognizing the urgency and the immediacy of the situation in Gaza. So I add my voice to Ilan and Haim and to everybody here by thanking you, all of you, Rani, Hadass, Nadia, Sue, everybody who made this possible for this incredible, incredible opportunity to meet, gather, and to find a way to coalesce and unite our voices into one. Regarding my final thoughts here, and they're going to be very quick. By the way, he did 3 minutes. So
I noticed.
I'm just saying.
I did one.
You did
It's
one.
noted.
No.
1 minute less for next Congress next year.
I'm doing 5 then.
When I came out, out from Gaza back in the early 90s, I met many wonderful Jewish activists who seemed focused on saying that Zionism does not represent me. Zionism does not speak on my behalf, which is great. And Zionism does not represent the Jewish people. But I think it's time to move forward now. We have already defined and redefined ourselves. So we need to go from the not in my name into defining ourselves as part and parcel of the Palestinian solidarity liberation movement globally everywhere else in the world, from the north to the south. In other words, we expect you to please move from the margins to the front lines of this struggle for a free Palestine. The second thing is that please do not allow for distractions, disunity. We will disagree about a lot of things, but we agree on one single principled value: the freedom of Palestine and the Palestinian people, and our location in that liberation movement and the future that we intend to build together. So no matter what kind of differences we have, no matter how fundamental and conceptual these differences may seem to us, we need to always find a way to stay in this room. And I hate to bring this example, but it annoys me how in the Knesset, this evil group of people who are unified on hating the Palestinians and wanting their ethnic cleansing, their genocide, and their demise, that no matter how angry they get at each other, they go outside, grab a smoke, a cup of coffee, and come back to the Knesset. Why shouldn't we, in the Palestine solidarity movement, adopt the same mindset and the same mentality? And finally, engage with truly representative Palestinians. When I say truly representatives, because I feel that sometimes we got excited about the idea of centering the Palestinian, that even the Israelis are now taking, or the Zionists are taking advantage of it, that they are trying to center the wrong Palestinians, Palestinian Authority, Palestinians, collaborators as Palestinians. If you read the New York Times, the collaborators of Gaza, the militias that are killing children in Gaza are being treated as if they are legitimate voices for the Palestinian people. So it's not the centering of any random Palestinian because he may look or sound Palestinian, but the Palestinian that is a truly representative example of the Palestinian people. And I do not want to impose on anyone who are these truly representative Palestinians, but for me as Ramzi Baroud, Hussam Abu Safiya represents me. Khalida Jarrar represents me. And a small child, right now, I'm certain of it, somewhere in Gaza, in the displacement camps, carrying twice, if not 3 times, his weight of barely drinkable water to help his family survive in the tent in that specific displacement camp also represents me. And thank you.
Thank you, Ramzi.
10 minutes now. That's it. No, I think my brothers summed it up. All my brothers here have summed it up as well as I can. And I just wanted to add some literal actions that some of our comrades in London have been taking. I don't know if you've all seen what happened, unfortunately, with the illegal land sale of our land that's been stolen from us, yeah. And unfortunately, this was taking place in a synagogue. Now, when we have brought this motion, we sort of, one of the Zionist arguments, oh, you're going to attack our synagogues. Like, actually, if you're referring to the ones literally attacking us by funding the IOF, by putting kids through these schools to then go claim our homeland as theirs and join the IOF and become the next genocidal murderers. And now you're talking about the same synagogues who are now selling off our land. Like, this is not a front for you to then hide behind and claim the protection, oh, it's anti-Semitic if you criticize our synagogues. I mean, there are siblings of ours there who had set up anti-Zionist synagogues now to detach themselves. They're saying these synagogues do not represent us. And if we cannot change them, we're going to create our own spaces. These are our allies. These are good people who we are working side by side with. And when they say, oh, you know, this anti-Semitism smear and self-hating Jews, I mean, it's disgusting. But together we are regenerating, building new society of people who are together. That's really hard-fetched for them to jeopardize or silence our voices when we're together, united, saying it as one people. And we hope through the educational platforms that we're bringing through the party and other spaces that there will be more. The reality, it shouldn't be our job as Palestinians to have to do this, although we're willing. But what I do believe it is for the Palestinians to lead our movement and to be the voices, again, that we have been denied for so long. And we are happy to work with everybody who respects our rights, who respects our right of return, who respects the now dismantlement of a racist state and the implementation of one that does, a single Palestinian state with equal rights for all. I mean, this is how criminal to be attacked with this. But the point is, it's acts like this that is the beginning of that end. That is the beginning of that much needed change. And there is a lot of work to be done. But here we are with seeds that we're all planting. And most importantly, like having this here today, I mean, can you imagine if we had this globally? This is what should be the case. And there will come a time where everybody will have been an anti-Zionist. And it begins in this room with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
My legs. step
I'm
now.
going to quickly release you from your role here. A big applause for this amazing team. To wrap up so we can finish on time, although this whole Congress always was too late, starting too late, we would still finish in 5 minutes as promised. I would really like to thank some people, and you can sit down. It's going to take 5 minutes. Some people have to go to their flights, therefore. So, a few announcements that a lot of people wanted to give. I will try to do it. First of all, on the exit door when you leave, there would be a sign for you to manually write down events, pro-Palestinian events. Am I right? That's what you wanted? Great. Please do so. Secondable. Secondly, you're going to receive an email from us so that we can keep in touch. We hope to be able to produce a newsletter of the JAZIC project, which is a new project. So please stay tuned to receive such a thing. In that newsletter, or at least in the first email, we would request first and foremost to receive your feedback on this Congress that we can learn for the next time. Please, please, please fill it up. I promise you, I'm going to do it, which means I'm going to do it so you can do it in 5 minutes. I hate filling out forms. I would not do this to you, but we really need that feedback. So please do that once you get that email. Second of all, we would give you some update regarding the declaration that we are working on to release from this Congress as we did last year. So of course, the declaration this year has many different things to add to it, and the steering committee will be working on it in the following week or couple of weeks, which means 2 months. No, I'm kidding. I would like to remind you that we spontaneously managed to have a film screening here at the hotel at the Arena suite at 17 o'clock, so 5 o'clock in half an hour. And that's a very honorable, Camille mentioned it before, and please, if you have the time, attend. I would like to start thanking, so we can wrap up, first of all, the hotel service. I don't know if we have a representative, but they did a lot for us here. We were really a pain in the neck for them. Another thing I have to, a session for.
So there's a session that is happening.
No, that's not nice, like this.
There's a session that is greatly organized by the iJan collective here to basically come together 4:45 to actually find the ways to organize together for material global resistance. If you are a part of an anti-Zionist group and you're doing something, come introduce yourself. If you're not part of any group and you want to, and you maybe have some kind of skill that you want to share, please come to that. That's going to be in
Liffey Suite 445. This is for Jewish anti-Zionist groups to discuss what role we can take strategically in the movement for Palestinian liberation and the next steps, turning words into action.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
That's the spirit. That's the spirit. So I'm continuing to thanking. I told about the hotel. I would like to thank the AVC team who did this technology, and we were also a pain in the neck. So thank you, Column. You can stand up for a second, right? And thank you, Martin. You probably hate it, but you did a great work, really, great job. I would like to thank our steering committee, many of which are here, and you got to know them. And of course, last but not least, us, the small team that I hope is here, with Ronnie Barkan. Can you come forward? And Sue Cantel, and Val Rocher, Miriam, Nadia. It sounds like a lot of people, but we are quite a small team. Jacob Wolf, Peter, who was here to help us a lot. Yeah, you hate it, but it's respectful. So thank you. Did I forget someone? And you can. And Chaim Breshit, before you're just leaving us, who is a very important part of the team. Don't be shy. Thank you all for great work during days and nights, that's for sure. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Have a good day, everybody. I'm going to rest. Goodbye.
Thank you. Just a reminder to everyone, thank you to all of you for being here. Thank you for all of you for supporting us from afar. And the third Congress will take place in about a year from now, likely in Spain or in Italy, but what matters is what happens tomorrow, what happens the day after, the week after, next month. We are building a platform where everyone will take part as much as they can in different ways. Let us work on this together. This is a collective effort. Let us globalize the Intifada and be successful at it.
Could I just thank Health Workers for Palestine and all the volunteers who came together to support us and protect us. You are mighty and you're part of this movement. Mila Buejas.
Calling Green Party England and Wales members, please come forward for a photo.